It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
All right, my friends, let me tell you a little story. You're in your home and you think you hear things, or work, or wherever you're at, particularly in your home. And sometimes you say, I swear there's a ghost in this house. You know, you talk to your wife, your husband, or whomever, your friends, and say, I think there's a ghost in this house, okay? And because I hear things, and then you think you're crazy. Now, if you remember, I had on the show Ned Doherty, and he had a near-death experience. What he was told in the near-death experience, he wrote the book Fast Lane to Heaven. And he wrote that book in 2000. And one of the things he was told was 9/11, which happened in 2001. So now what happens is this. You're really nervous about what's going on. There are people that can let you know whether there are strange things happening in your home. And I have them on my show today. It's Northeast Ghost Specialist. And we're going to talk about paranormal activity, etc. And I would ask you to listen to this because sometimes you think you're nuts, but you're really not nuts. So I want to welcome Bill DeFrancisco, I want to welcome Athena, and I want to welcome Braden on the show. And we'll be talking to Colleen a little later on. So Bill, let's go back to, we're talking about, you know, you go into different homes and you find, you know, whether there's ghosts. Right. How did you start this? Why did you start it? What made you interested in this?
It started for me in my own family home. Probably around the age of 12 years old. Friends of my sister were killed in an automobile accident. And not long after their death, things in the house started happening. We would have pictures moving, chairs sliding, cold spots. Mark always had this distinct cologne, and you would get a whiff of that in the house. One of the strangest things that happened was right after their death, which would have been a couple hours later, I was in my mom's room sitting on her radiator, and she had this white, rotary dial phone, and that phone rang. And when I picked it up, the voice on the other line said, "Billy, tell your sister I'll be right down." And then the phone went dead. That voice was from Mark, who was killed hours earlier on the Weatherly Hill climb. So that's what fueled me. There had to be reasons for it, I wanted an explanation. So what I did was, back then, this wasn't so mainstream. I had to do my research in the library, and I would look up ghost stories and all that stuff. And then just one day, I just decided I'm going to go out and start checking on my own. So that's what I did.
So what do you mean checking on your own?
Well, again, this wasn't mainstream. So I had an old VHS, one of those big old VHS recorders,
I know them well, yeah.
and the tape recorders.
Yeah.
And I would go to cemeteries and I would ask questions. Did
they think you were nuts?
Back then, if you said, the people would absolutely think that you were half bonkers.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there's stuff out there, and it can be explained, and that's why we do what we do.
I mentioned before in opening the show where you're looking at, sometimes people hear things or they see, and they think they're crazy, okay? So each one of you on the show today do a specific function. So when I mentioned the Northeast Ghost Specialist, remember I said I was a little concerned about ghosts. So when someone calls you, what are some of the things they call you about, and when your group goes out?
Well, pretty much it's just like you said. We'll get called, and we'll get called from people that are in a panic. We're hearing noises. We're seeing things move. My husband, my wife, keep seeing shadows, cold spots.
When you say cold, what's a cold spot?
Well, if the room is at 75 degrees, say,
okay,
and I'm going to step over here next to you, there could be a cold spot. And when we take the ambient temperature with our equipment, there could be a 5 or 6 degree difference in the temperature from where I'm sitting.
What would cause that?
a lot of people believe that when cold spots, it's actually a spirit trying to manifest itself and make itself seen. And what it does, it's drawing on the air around it. And as that's happening, it's cooling the air down for the spirit to try to make itself seen. So that's how cold spots would happen.
All right, give me a case that what happened, and then I'll ask what Athena did and what Braden did.
Well, how about I give you one that's totally off the wall?
Okay.
It'll set the mood a little bit better for you. I had received a call from a very panicked woman that lived down in the St. Clair area. And she had claimed that in the middle of the night that her covers were pulled and she was yanked out of bed. So when I received that phone call, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. You want to believe it, but you want to be able to debunk that at first, because I don't go into a home. If you tell me that your home has all this stuff going on in it, I don't want to initially come out and say, oh yeah, Sam, your house is haunted. I want to find out and debunk everything that you have told me. So when she told me this, I was skeptical, but my group, not this one, my prior group, we had gone down, we set up our equipment, and I asked her if I would be able to put a camera on her during the evening, and she agreed to it. And probably around 2, 3 o'clock, sure enough, I can see on our video the comforter being pulled back and her leg getting yanked from the bottom of the bed.
My God.
Now, it's right, you said my God, and I believe I said the same thing, because had I not seen that, it would have been hard for me to believe it, and it was, until I seen it.
So what did you do?
Well, we finished up our investigation that night, and we went back to our home base where we worked, and we went through all the evidence, and we compiled the EVPs and photos, plus that video, and we went back to her house, and we set everything up, and we explained it to her. We showed her the videos. We let her hear the EVPs.
What's EVP?
An EVP is an electronic voice phenomenon. Okay. It's a disembodied voice that's picked up on a recorder. So, and as with that, it'd be like sitting in a room right here with you and having a recorder here and saying, you know what, if there's any spirits here with us, can you speak into that recorder? Now, 95% of the time, we're not going to hear it. It's going to be imprinted on the recorder. Okay, so that's a disembodied voice. We let that woman hear everything, and then we asked her, what do you want us to do here? And all she wanted to do was have the house blessed. So at the time, we got in touch with her pastor down that way, and he came in and blessed the house. We followed up with her about 3 months later, and all activity had stopped after that blessing.
Now, I find this interesting, okay, because here again, we had non-believers when we had Ned Doherty on talking about his near-death experience, and I told you after the show, I got a lot of calls, people saying, boy, I'm glad you had him on, because I had a near-death experience. When I tell them, people think I'm crazy, okay? You actually witnessed them. So call Athena. What is your part in this group?
I'm an investigator.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So when we go into homes, I pretty much do EVP sessions. I go into a certain room where they say they have different types of activity going on, footsteps, any types of noises, voices that they might hear. So I go into a certain room and I do EVP sessions. I ask different questions like, is there anybody here with us? Anyone would like to make themselves known? And like my dad said earlier, we might not exactly hear that voice right away until we go back and look over the evidence that we have from that specific case. I also go in with a K2 meter, which is this right here. So we go in with this, and I could ask, like, can you make the K2 meter light up? And usually if it lights up, there's something there with us.
Determining when you get people who call you, certain people have hallucinations, okay, okay, and maybe medication or whatever,
Right.
and you have to know the difference, I think, right, Bill? And you know,
Yeah, we have a form that we'll go through with the person that will cover everything, you know, or, you know, and they're personal, you know, were they alcoholics? Are they taking prescription medication?
Yeah.
You know, and we cover all that, you know, and then we base it off what we find, you know. Well, there's been a few times that people have called us, and all they wanted was the attention, because, you know, do you remember the Smurl case up in Pittston back in the 80s?
no.
All right, well, back up there in West Pittston, the Smurls were claiming that they were having a haunting almost identical to what the Amityville Horror was, okay? So these people that had called us, they were looking for that kind of attention to come in, and they thought that there'd be cameras and TV, you know, they wanted to gain something from it. And all they were doing was lying to us, because what they did was, when we go into a house, you know, we want to make sure the baseline readings in the house are very flat.
So, Braden, why don't you
Go
explain?
ahead.
Braden's the the visual man here, AV equipment tech. Braden, explains what you do then when they're going there.
Well, when we first go into a building, I'm the one that sets up the cameras.
Okay.
I work with Billy, and he picks the spots, and then I help him set it up. I get all the equipment ready.
And you have the equipment there.
Want to explain?
Yeah. Tell me what the.
Explain the K2 meter.
The K2 meter?
Yeah.
Okay, so it works on electromagnetic fields. So basically, when you're walking around, anything that has a high electromagnetic field will, the lights will go up. Okay. Like a lot of power sources, anything like along that, like with power sources.
Light it up, see if you can show it on how it goes.
Yeah, so right now, I don't know if you can see it, there's a baseline
Show it.
a green light.
All right, there's a
One
green light on, okay. And
So
what happens then?
If I were to take that over to the camera,
Yeah.
it would probably most likely move up to at least the red light, because there's a lot of power coming from there.
Okay.
So if you're walking around the house and you're going along walls, and it's just like moving back and forth,
Yeah.
like that might mean something's there. Or like if you're just walking around and you get a big hit, like a red light, just out of nowhere, and you're just walking through like the middle of the house, that could possibly mean something's there.
Okay. And what's the other things you have there on?
This is the SB7 Spirit Box. This uses radio waves, and you can talk in real time and hear things back in real time.
And so what do you detect from that in a home?
Sometimes you can hear voices back, like if you're asking questions.
But you can't hear it, but that'll pick it up.
No, you can't hear this in real time. This has a speaker that runs through radio waves,
Okay.
and you can hear it back in real time. Now, a lot of the time, you have to really decipher it out, because you might be hearing something else, because like I said, it is radio waves.
Okay. Now, you had, we have 2 videos, okay, that we're going to show. Explain, I ask you some things that you experienced. What's the first video we're going to
The first video, well, actually both videos are at the Freeland Borough building, the old one. So we had a camera set up in the on the 3rd floor, and none of us were up there at the time. No. And we had the EVP, we had something similar to this. It's an EVP recorder, but we had it hooked up to a microphone, a very sensitive microphone. And we had that hooked up to one of the ceiling lights. We had it wrapped around, I think, 3 times.
Yeah, it was tight.
Yeah. So I was downstairs watching the cameras when it happened. You can see something pulls on the EVP, and it like yanks it somewhat off of the light.
Wow. And the second video?
The second video, it was again in the 3rd floor, different day though. Billy and my mom, Colleen, were up doing an EVP session, and I was back behind the camera up there as well with them, just filming. And Billy asks about a little boy, if there was a little boy up there, and the light above him turns on. Now, when we go into these buildings, we turn all the lights off, like there's no power, and we actually had the light unscrewed from the socket, and it goes on right as he asks about a little boy.
Folks, I'm talking to people from the Northeast Ghost Specialist, and here again, sometimes you think you're nuts. Sometimes you think you're crazy. You hear things, but the thing is this: when they go into your place and they find different things, does it benefit you then after? You just mentioned about one area where the house was blessed and there was no more activity. But sometimes, can you actually get physically hurt? And we come back, we're going to tell you where Bill actually got hurt doing one of these, and we're going to show you a picture of what happened when we get back after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7 SSPTV.com. All of our neighborhood programs are there. And all the systems. We're in, of course, Pottsville, Comcast 190. Here in Hazelton, SSP 13 and High Definition Channel 513. Wilkes-Barre, Kingston, Mountaintop, Channel 92. Saturdays and Sundays, and in the Scranton area, Saturdays and Sunday mornings on Comcast 190. YouTube. If you go to YouTube, we also translate the show in different languages as well. My guest today, we are talking about Northeast Ghost Specialist. Sometimes you may see things in your home, hear things, you think you're crazy, you think there's ghosts there, spirits there. Well, this group, and I'll put the phone number up on the screen so you can call them if you have any questions, and their website, it's 570-599-5730. Bill DeFrancesco was the founder of this, and there are a number of people that work on this. Joining us now is Colleen, and Colleen, you're a lead investigator.
Yes.
Okay, what does that mean?
Just that I go in, usually I pair up with either Billy or Athena. We go in with our equipment, ask questions. We try to get like background on the house, like people that previously lived there, if it would be them, like names and stuff like that. We'll go in and we'll say, is Betty here, for example? And then we just wait and see what we get.
Now, you have another piece of equipment there, Braden. Show it and tell me what this does. And you use this, is that you're saying, Colleen, part of the equipment?
Yes, that's part.
Okay, what is that?
So we call it the pyramid.
Okay.
This basically runs on temperature and movement. So there's two sensors on each side. We put it on a stationary place in the middle of a room, and you can't not move in the room while you're using this because it's very sensitive. So if anything moves on either side, red light or blue light will light up. And then if it gets like a heat source, it will light up red. And if it gets like a cold source, it'll light up blue. So we can use that to kind of help with answering questions.
All right, so now, so as you're asking questions, that thing is on.
Yes, sometimes, like we might have that in a separate room.
Okay, and so this is how you're able to find out if there is really some kind of activity going.
Yes.
Now, what we talked about before, some people see things in their home and you have to decide whether they're hallucinations or were they on drugs or whatever. So this is part of your deal as a lead investigator, you ask these questions?
Yes.
Yeah. So who would call you and why would I want to have you come to my place? I don't mean my place, but in general.
Right.
Maybe you should come to my place.
If you have anything going on, like shadows, things moving, things disappearing, because spirits will play tricks on you. They will move stuff on you.
So give me a classic example, and I'm going to get to you were hurt at actually one of these, and I want the audience to see exactly what happened. Give me very quickly a case that you went in, start to finish, and what you found and what you did and how did the results were.
It was a house in Hickory Hills. Actually, the house in Hickory Hills, how it started was our case manager, Kim, and her husband lived next door. Uh-huh. They got in touch with Billy, and we decided to get it as a group, go down and check this house out. Because now I'm saying, like, spirits will play tricks on you. They were taking Kim's keys on her. Like she would lay them on the counter and she would go back to get them and they weren't there.
Where were they putting them?
When she would when she would come back in the room, then they would be sitting there.
You got to be kidding me. Yes. And so what happened then?
Well, we went in with all our equipment, and I'll tell you what, the house was hot. We got a lot, yeah. Like we were told that the girl that actually commit suicide in the house,
Yeah.
like to burn candles. And as we were in there, we were able to smell the candles.
Yeah, residual.
So what happened then? How did you resolve this situation? What was?
We ended up having to go in and Billy blessed the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It's an old Indian thing. It's called smudging, where you take white sage and you burn it and you go through the room, because the white sage is supposed to, if you believe in that stuff, it removes all negative.
Did it do what it's supposed to be done?
Yeah, after well, I think we investigated that house probably 4 times, because it was a hotbed of activity. So yeah, but once
Actually, the picture that you have of Bill's back, that happened in that house.
What I'm going to show you now, before we show you the picture, what are they going to be looking at right now?
Okay, so what they're going to look at now is, we had gone down into their basement and we were doing an EVP session, electronic voice phenomena, and we were provoking. When we went down into the basement, we weren't getting a lot of activity, so I did a technique called provoking, where you try not to say bad things, but you're like, you know what, Spirit, I don't believe you're here. You're nothing. I don't believe in your existence. And that's what I was doing. And we were standing in like a semicircle, and Colleen was right on side of me like she is now. And as I was continuing to provoke, I felt on my back almost like a burning sensation. So I immediately went forward and I pulled my shirt up and I said to Colleen, I said, something scratched me. And when she came around and she looked, she could see the welts forming across my
this
back.
Is what we're showing right now, the picture of the.
That would be, yeah.
Well, that's scary.
Yeah. Well,
So did that sort of got your attention?
That really got my attention. And it wasn't long after that we were listening to our recordings, and it said it didn't like the bald man. So considering.
Not Colleen.
No, certainly, yeah.
Or Braden.
Yeah, well, kind of stands out. But
Yeah.
but in all
Isn't that
honesty, yeah, it was.
And so did you eliminate these?
Yes, once we went back and we finally did the smudging technique, all activity stopped.
It's interesting because sometimes you're sleeping and you feel that someone's there. Mm-hmm. Okay, do people actually get hurt physically in some of these incidents?
It depends. Every case is different.
Have you ever had a case where actually, like, you were physically scratched, mm-hmm. but you ever say, well, someone really got physical? I mean, that's really scary.
That got physically harmed no. But I've had people that were scared that they sold their homes and moved out not long after we proved to them.
But you had a success rate of eliminating these spirits.
Yes, I'm very, very good at it.
Yeah, that's interesting because all right, so some people seem that or hear things in their home or whatever. Can they talk to the spirits and say, leave me alone and get out of the house or something like that? I mean, if you're talking to spirits,
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, but I mean,
but it's not. And if somebody is experiencing anything, knocks, bangs, first what you want to do is you want to try to debunk that.
What do you mean by debunk?
Okay, so you call me out to your house, Bill, my lights are flickering,
Yeah.
I hear banging in my basement.
Yeah.
My first thing is I'm going to check your electrical. I'm going to make sure that there's nothing wrong. I'm also going to go down in your basement because pipes run across the joists.
Yeah.
Sometimes, as time goes on, they get worn. Water pressure will bang them. We want to prove that it's not a spirit or a haunting, and try to give you the satisfaction that this is what it is. This is all you have to do to take care of it. Now, if we come in and we can't debunk anything, and then we could come back to you with evidence, then yeah.
Then you proceed from that point.
Then we proceed, and we proceed however you would want us to proceed. Some people just want to know, hey, am I crazy?
Yeah, exactly.
And if I can prove to them that no, they're not crazy, this is what's going on, that's peace of mind for them. Mm-hmm. And then other people, they'll want us to bless or remove the spirit from the home.
Folks, I'm telling you, it's interesting. If you recall, I had Ned Doherty here, and he had a near-death experience and wrote the book. Everything he was told happened. So if you think you're hearing things or seeing things, you're not crazy, you're not nuts. Phone numbers on the screen, 570-599-5730. Websites up there, northeastspecialist.com, northeastghostspecialist.com. Give them a call, and believe me, you're not crazy. I want to thank you all for coming on the show. I was talking to Braden up at the top of the 80s many times, and he's told me what he did, and I said, I think this would be interesting, and it is interesting. I'd like to do another show at one point in time where we could actually have some cases that you guys were involved with, and more specific, so people could say, well, all right, well, they're better off now that we had to come in, and they can sleep and they don't have all these things going in their home. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Don't
Thank
forget,
you.
folks, 24/7 SSPTV.com. All the shows are there. We'll see you next time.